It's the Redbird Reboot podcast. Are you ready to get rebooted, Cardinals fans? He settles down, at least in the zone, and does not stop running.
Blake Murphy.
This is the identity for the Arizona Cardinals.
The run defense is just horrendous, and it's been horrendous for the Cardinals for a long time.
And Marcos Labrada.
He's going to bring over his philosophy. It should make it better.
Present the hottest NFL podcast from the country's hottest state.
It's the Redbird Reboot podcast. Are you ready to get rebooted, Cardinals fans? He settles down, at least in the zone, and does not stop running.
Blake Murphy.
This is the identity for the Arizona Cardinals.
The run defense is just horrendous, and it's been horrendous for the Cardinals for a long time.
And Marcos Labrada.
He's going to bring over his philosophy. It should make it better.
Present the hottest NFL podcast from the country's hottest state.
He should be turning around the logo.
Actually, some breaking news we can cover here. This popped up just about, 6 minutes ago.
It's Redbird Reboot.
Hello there, Arizona Cardinals fans. Welcome in. It is the Redbird Reboot podcast. You've got Blake and Marcos here ready to talk about your Arizona Cardinals. And folks, there's not a lot to say. Cardinals went out, get blown out by the Seattle Seahawks. It was over, it seemed like, just minutes into the game. Cardinals were down 35-0, and we hadn't even gotten to the second half, essentially. It was a brutal look for the Cardinals. They ended up losing the game 44-22. Jacoby Brissett was sacked 5 times. And Marcos, it's one of those games where you just want to burn the tape after you play it, and with quite a few injuries that the Cardinals had going into the game, missing their top 2 cornerbacks outside of Garrett Williams and Max Melton, and having a Will Johnson, and having a healthy Seattle Seahawks wide receiver core, you kind of had a feeling that if the Cardinals were not able to get pressure on Sam Darnold, it was going to be a long day at the office, and the Seattle Seahawks against the Cardinals offensive line turned out to be a mismatch. It turns out to be even worse than we could have thought, as the Cardinals drop now to 3-6 on the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those games that it's funny that you mentioned about burning the tape, because it is actually more important to have this type of film to be able to go back and look at. If I was the Cardinals, obviously the head coach or the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, whatever it is, this is film that you want to go back to tons of times. It's horrible that you got beat by that much, by 22 points. There's a little bit of bright spots, obviously, but you want to go back and see what exactly was what led to being blown out by that much. So it's as hard as it is to watch this film, and as hard as it is that how bad of a game it was, you do want to go back and see, like, hey, so these are the areas we have to improve upon. Jacoby Brissett, by the way, that's one of the guys that I'm really banking on, hoping that he does watch the film on this game, because there was a couple, obviously, those misses that he had that were kind of off target and whatnot. But I'm trusting that if he's a person that, wants to continue starting for this team and he wants to continue to play better on, he does need to watch the film, because he quite frankly didn't have himself a good game at all.
No, it wasn't. It was also a tough game for the offensive line. Jacoby was sacked 5 times. He's now taken 18 sacks in the 4 starts he's had. He's averaging 4.5 sacks per game, poor guy. It's a combination, I think, of 2 things, Marcos. We've seen now there is an alternative to Kyler Murray. There's positives. We've seen Jacoby's able to stay in the pocket, throw the ball. You've seen them be able to get it deep. We've also seen some negatives. He's not able to escape the pass rush. We saw the Seattle Seahawks had a very good game plan where they're able to blitz guys up the middle, be able to disguise, and Jacoby is a guy who hangs onto the ball, will hold on, take a hit, and get rid of it. Unfortunately, he had 2 times where he took hits that ended up being a little bit too much. I do want to start off with the defense, because really what we really saw in this game was Sam Darnold threw the ball 12 times. It wasn't that Seattle ran the ball effectively. It was just because of those 2 defensive turnovers that they were able to force with touchdowns early on. It was pretty much they didn't need to throw the ball. It's one of those typical Seattle fashions where they're incredibly efficient. They were able to throw the ball extremely well. One of the things I did want to also be able to show was just the way that things went down from the jump was pretty unfortunate, because it turned into just a huge play right off the get-go. Seattle Seahawks have been kind of small plays, haven't really gone for that many chunk plays for the most part. Here you can see, at least, you get a nice pocket for Sam Darnold. He throws the ball deep. Garrett Williams ends up falling down on the route. and Jalen Thompson gets there a step late. It's a touchdown to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And after the next series, where they forced a defensive touchdown on the Cardinals, where Jacoby fumbled, the ball gets picked up, run into the end zone by DeMarcus Lawrence. It was pretty much just a done deal there to begin with. This is one of those places where ultimately we've seen this time and time again from Seattle. This is a good job from Garrett Williams staying in the pocket, or the hip pocket, I should say. He just ends up falling down. We have not seen him, I think, be fully 100% healthy, Marcos. He's not missing everything. Like you say, he's staying step for step with Smith and Jigba. He doesn't have the same lateral movement as what it seems like the last two games. And there's little things like this where the Garrett Williams before the injury probably stays with him, but Garrett Williams here just ends up giving that up with the touchdown. Unfortunate, but not unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. And we might as well just get the ugly play out of the way. I know that with that play, I've been saying that when it comes to man coverage and whatnot, Garrett Williams is not as stout as he is when it's like in zone coverage and whatnot. Probably the reason why they keep him in the slot, because you have a little bit more ability to be able to stay off, off the line of scrimmage and whatnot and everything. But that play, he just simply got beat. He got his feet tangled in this unfortunate incidental contact. He falls down in the worst possible time. Smith and Jigba just has to just catch the ball, and that's it. You can make that catch. But we can talk about the two fumbles, which are really the detrimental ones and whatnot. I think that's what everybody wants to come here and see. And for the first one, I actually had to make a correction on a person that's well known in the in the community. It's called Theo Mackey. He posts up all these clips of the All-22, and that play in particular is the one where he is basically getting hit.
Yeah.
The whole notion is, and I don't know, do you want to pull it up? Because I have it here if you want me to
Go for
pull
it.
it.
I was about to say, at least if you want to show some of it, but like you said, the trust that we have with the line is something that is very much something we've talked about in some of the Cardinals' losses late in the game. We've seen a couple of times that Jacoby's just missed a couple of throws late. It's been unfortunate, but there's been a couple of those that he has ultimately not been able to make some of those last-minute throws. And at the end of the day, it's one of those spots where you're hoping that you'll be able to see things shift and change, but I don't think it's going to happen this week with some of the injuries we've seen for the Cardinals. It seemed like the offensive line's pass protection got a little bit better once they had Kelvin Beachum in, but the run defense definitely had some issues. That's something that I think is not going to shift or change with the amount of injuries they have this week.
Well, let's go over first about what Seattle did, because AQ Shipley had mentioned on, I think it was on like Burns and Gamble, I'm not even sure, it's a flagship station, that they were doing stuff that he's never seen before. I think he's kind of lying. He's trying to give out the whole like, hey, these type of things that I've seen are that exotic that I haven't seen that much. So maybe the offensive line is.
Oh, there he is. We have got Marcos right here, back ready to go with us, folks. Thanks so much. He just dropped off for a quick, brief second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like talking and stuff, and I was thinking to myself, wait, did you get off? Anyways, where's that? There we go. We got our play. All right. So I like the fact that we can both control this feature, of course. So the first thing was that AQ Shipley, I mentioned, the Seahawks were doing something that was exotic. It definitely was exotic. It is something that is done, and something that I had been pounding the table for someone like Van Joseph to do with his linebackers, whatever. Anyways, you see 48 coming on a delayed blitz. They go 4 strong here. This is a play that's been shared around quite often and whatnot. You have Kelvin Beachum at the tight end, H-back position, whatever you want to call it. He's going to shift right before the line of scrimmage motion and then go on to like a wham block type jet protection, because he's in charge of taking out the opposing edge defender to the, what you would say, the boundary side, where Trey McBride is. Well, Trey McBride does somewhat like a stay and release, or like a chip and release and whatnot. He notices that the linebacker, drops off into coverage. You'll see both linebackers to that side drop off into coverage, and then that releases him to be, the guy over the middle. That's the guy that Jacoby Brissett's trying to target on this play. Well, my issue with this play was that there should be a change in protection. If it's not Drew Petzing that's making that call, Jacoby Brissett or his center should be picking this up, because you can see from here there's 5 people on the left side of the line of scrimmage. pre-snap. That's just plain as day. You can see that. So if you know that there's 4 eligible blitzers to that side of the protection, and you have 4 bodies, but you have 5 blitzers, they all come. You're not going to be able to block them all up
Yep.
unless you keep Calvin Beachum there. So Calvin Beachum should have just, quite frankly, just stayed. There shouldn't have been a motion. Of course, he
Yeah.
gets motion.
Yeah, you're right. That was one of those things where it was a whiff on Arizona's part. Not good.
Yeah, and as you can see, he's kind of waiting for Trey McBride to slant over the middle. He's watching him, and as he sees them, he's kind of getting that thought process of like, "Hey, I get this ball out before I get hit. This is what I've done this entire season." The problem is that his blind spot, he can't see when he turns. His back is facing 48, which is night. He never looks that direction because he's looking for Trey McBride, trusting that his offensive line is going to be able to hold, not knowing that there's way more blockers. So as
Yeah.
he's releasing it, boom, he pretty much just comes out of nowhere on him, and it's just a tick second too late. Where if it was a little bit sooner, that ball is getting completed to Trey McBride. Look, there's nobody over the middle. Like he
Yeah.
gets like what 15 yards, maybe 20 yards on that
Yeah.
play. It's a big
It's
play.
a
But
good play design, as you said, but there's one big problem with it, which is that the
protection.
blitz look and the protection was a misread there. Whether Kelvin Beachum was supposed to stay or that they need to have the ability to audible at the line.
Exactly.
That's one of those spots that was needed and did not end up happening for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and even as you can see, Dana even points it out over here. That said, yeah, Trey needs to be motion to left if anything. Oh wait, actually, I think she's talking about the opposite. She's talking about having him motion
Yep.
to the left side. I think I was fine with him slanting over the middle because there was an open space vacated
Right.
when they blitzed.
They read the
but-
coverage really well as far as when they blitzed, you always throw hot into the blitz. But like you said, what ended up happening on the play was Kelvin Beachum, because there's so many guys on that one side, Jacoby has to move over here. He's got to move a little bit in the pocket. Like that's just one of the things. He's going to have to move, run. It's a difficult throw. He's one of those guys who's not as athletic, but he'll stand in the pocket, take a hit, and deliver the ball. Here he stands a little bit too long, doesn't move his feet very much. That's one of the things here. Like he kind of shifts and then he gets ready, but you got to move a little bit if you're them. That's one of the things that we'd see with Kyler. Kyler in that situation, he would immediately just be able to go, boom, quick twitch, move a bit to where that is in the spot. And if he can't see where it's going to be with that spot in the blitz, he's knowing that he's at least got Trey that's going to be coming over the middle. He can at least be able to kind of pop it over. One of the things I think we've seen, Marcos, is that there is a gap between Kyler and Jacoby. And while Jacoby, I think, is able to run the offense better overall, there is some issues that we've seen when it comes to just being able to have the athleticism that's necessary for a heavy blitzing team like Seattle that's going to overload boxes. That's something that I think we need to be able to recognize. And it's something that Kyler Murray is one of those players who is going to have issues standing in the pocket, holding on to the ball, but he's going to do well when it comes to some of the bigger things, such as having that athleticism to be able to make a move and get away from, one of these types of pass rushes.
I'll agree with you on the athleticism, but if he has his head turned that same direction, I don't see how he sees that guy coming. But I will say that Kyler Murray probably does not get sacked on that. But
Right.
if he gets sacked, no, not sacked. He doesn't throw. He doesn't get fumbled in that position. But if he does, obviously that's a bad situation where he just like has the ball free and it does that. So that's the only difference that I would see. But we don't know because he wasn't in the game. We can't say that for sure. And this is the second time that they scored. I was listening to the game, and when I heard touchdown, I thought to myself, oh, did they score a touchdown like on a long throw or anything? The Seattle Seahawks, both players did it again. I'm like, oh no, oh my God.
Mhm.
And then I had to go watch the replay, and this is when I saw this same exact, well, it's not the same type of blitz, but you see obviously Lawrence and Knight standing up at the line of scrimmage. You have your defensive tackle, the big cat Williams, 42. Don't know what the heck he is, nor do I care. And they're lined up, standing up. You don't know who's gonna come in. You don't know who's gonna drop. You don't know who's gonna blitz. Well, they send 3 to that side because they wanted to overwhelm that right side of the line. Who's on the right side of the line? Blake.
Yep, on the right side of the line, you've got
And you
good
saw
old Jonah Williams.
And you also saw Trey motion away from that side of the line of scrimmage. So you have three blockers. You do have what you would say is somebody to pick up with DeMarcado, but the problem is that when he has to block from this angle, as you can see, he lost his footing from under him. Like, this is more in tune of being able to block from the opposite side of where he's lined up. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
it's
he's having to basically cross block is what you're talking about there.
so it's better for him to block. If he was lined up on Jacoby's left side, he'd be able to take on these blocks. But since he's lined up on the same side as him and he sees these guys blitzing, you see that he's looking first. He has to protect the A gaps first. That's the rule.
Yep.
But because he didn't realize that, hey, I have three guys to the side, this guy's coming free. He lost his footing. Of course, Knight gets back there, does the same exact thing to Jacoby Brissett, and I mean,
yeah, it's a place where that zero stunt blitz should have the ball being able to get to Trey McBride when you take a look at that one on the clip. But like you mentioned, when he snaps the ball here, DeMarcado, he takes away the one. But like you said, he slips, falls, and it ends up being just a complete and utter failure, at least on that spot. Because this stunt, the way that it's supposed to be able to work out is when you take a look at what's gone on with Trey McBride and how he's able to kind of chip and release. You should have another spot available right over there for Trey, but he runs, instead of running an in-breaking route, there's an out-breaking route. So this is one of those plays where I think the play call ultimately, they're hoping that there's a little bit able to be picked up. You see he's looking to where Trey is supposed to be, kind of probably sitting down in a soft spot in the zone. There's not a hot read in this offense. This is something Kurt Warner talked about a couple of times, is that the play call is kind of the play call. You don't have the ability to quickly adjust, get to a hot read, and be able to just quickly get the ball out, because that's what you should be able to do in this situation, is be able to have that flexibility to be able to switch to that route very quickly and then be able to just hit that, knowing that the Seahawks are bringing blitz. There's going to be the middle of the field is going to be open and vacated. Not the case, unfortunately. And it's just where it comes down to, like you said, it's a combination of game plan and execution, and neither have been there for the Cardinals, which is why they lost this game in stupendous fashion.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see him kind of sit right there. So you do kind of see that he is cognizant and aware that this ball has to come out. But just as we mentioned, the protection on that side of the line of scrimmage was just horrid. And I'm not trying to bail out Jonah Williams because I've been on him quite a bit, but it's hard to expect two offensive linemen to just pick up three guys because they kind of get confused there. You are supposed to protect inwards, let the guy to the furthest to the outside just come free, because you know that guy is able to basically have a longer path to the quarterback, and you saw Jonah Williams pick him up in pass protection because he's thinking to himself, where DeMarcado's got the inside pressure, and that's not the way it should have been. But it is what it is. It's bad coaching, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a combination, at least, of with the coaching, also the quarterback play. Just it was not a good matchup for the Cardinals, and as a result, we take a look at the rest of the game. Cardinals. Here's how the game opened up for Arizona. It was pretty brutal overall, Marcos, because you had a touchdown for the Seahawks. Cardinals fumble the ball, turns into a defensive touchdown. Cardinals get the ball back. They punt. The offense did nothing. Seahawks then go down, get another touchdown. It's 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. Cardinals then have a second fumble that is a defensive touchdown. They get the ball back. What do? 3 and out. They punt, where they had the pass that basically was, I believe, the short pass to the middle. And they go for that 3rd and 1 run. And this is one where we saw Greg Dortch scored a touchdown on a direct snap, little kind of jet sweep through. He scored a touchdown on that one. Did not work when it came down to the 3rd and 1 previously. It ended up being a tackle for loss of -2. They just had a few too many bodies that it seemed like were on the line. Arizona needed to probably shift to a different play, try to catch them off guard instead of the jet sweep. Because they were at a spot where you probably would have been able to go for it on 4th and 1. If you had been able to run the ball forward, you could then just line up Jacoby, get the quarterback sneak. That's something that you want to be able to have. And instead, the Cardinals end up punting it back to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks end up with a 67-yard pass. They completely lose coverage of Cooper Kupp. Just one of those plays where the offensive line holds up pretty well. Sam Darnold kind of runs around, escapes, trips the ball up. Cooper Kupp is just ends up finding a soft spot where nobody's there available, runs down for 67 yards. So you're talking about you're at the Arizona 3-yard line. They score pretty quickly after that. Suddenly, next thing you know, 35-0. Cardinals have 2 more plays. It actually even takes, I believe, a lost fumble to be able to get the Cardinals on the board when they recovered the ball basically at the Seattle 2-yard line, with Arizona running the ball all the way down the field, having that 4th and goal at the Seattle 1-yard line. Bam Knight ran off of right tackle, did not get in. So at that point, you're like, are they going to score? And you remember, oh yeah, that's right. You flip the field, it's at Seattle's 1-yard line. There's a chance for Arizona to pin them deep here, be able to get the ball back. They're able to get on the board with a touchdown, and then it gets to the Seahawks being able to get another field goal on a 6-play drive. That ends the half, 38-7 in one half of football alone. The only reason, Marcos, why this was a game was because there was another interception and another fumble from Seattle. They turned the ball over 3 times. Arizona was able to turn those 3 touchdowns into essentially, or 3 turnovers into 3 touchdowns. I think it was actually one of those didn't go directly for a touchdown that Seattle fumbled, but the Cardinals were able to at least have one good drive in the 4th quarter to go down 84 yards for that touchdown to Marvin Harrison Jr. It was a disaster class, ultimately, as far as when you're talking about all of the goodwill from the Dallas Cowboys game, seeing Jacoby be able to be present, seeing at least a little bit of momentum being shifted, seeing a little bit of coming off of the hot seat for some of these coaches. It's all gone, and it was gone within the first 5 minutes of the game, it feels like, Marcos.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why it has to be like this for the Cardinals, but it seems like when we lose, we lose. It's not as simple as, and I know I get it. We've lost by like heartbreaking fashion by like 3 or 4 points, but it seems like when it goes bad, it just goes bad, and we can't get ourselves out of it. And it's frustrating because we've had how many years of just having to deal with like just blowouts. Like, hey, the NFC Championship between us and the Carolina Panthers, they go up 21-0 on us, and that's it. There is no comeback story for us. Hey, like, what was it like after that? I would think that the next blowout that I could think about were just the ones that we had 2 years ago. One against the 49ers and the other one versus unfortunately the Rams and the Niners just have put those on us as well, just by getting up there, putting us in a position where we just can't come back. And sometimes I want to have a story where we do make that comeback, where we do come back. And yes, we've had maybe a few of those in my career, in our career, but I'm tired of these rollover like losses.
Yeah, it did feel like it wasn't quite a rollover. It wasn't a 58-0, but it was very close to that. And that's something that talks about, like, when you're talking about just what we've seen with this team. They've got talent, but we've reached a point in the season where they've had enough key injuries now where that talent is showcasing that there's not a lot of depth on this team. They started from almost 0. They basically scraped everyone off except for James Conner and Budda Baker talent-wise after 2022. They've had to build stuff up through draft picks, trying to sign some free agent acquisitions. Some of those have gone pretty well. Some of those have not gone well at all. And now that they've had guys like Dadrian Taylor-Demerson got hurt to start the game, we said Jonah Williams got hurt in the game. Baron Browning left with a concussion. Mack Wilson left as well. And we know that they're not completely healthy when it comes to Will Knight. We still are waiting to see if we're going to get Max Melton back. I believe Will Johnson is going to probably be out another week. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just overall what I've heard for the most part, which is not good when you've got a game which Ricky Pearsall is likely to come back and be cleared to go against the Arizona Cardinals. We'll talk a bit about it, but it feels like this sort of disastrous season in progress. At this point, Marcos, part of the reason I'm wearing white is because at some point, when do you feel like you wave the white flag if you're the Cardinals and just be able to say, we know we're not going to be in it for the playoffs. We know this is a disaster season. You still have 8 games left. You can't just go out there and say we're going to play all the third stringers, treat everything like the third preseason game. That's not how football gets played. But at some point, you have to look at where this team is and be able to ask some difficult, tough questions about the talent that's been assembled, how it fits with everyone else, and about the coaching staff. They're going to be on the hot seat probably for the rest of the year with having the second toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. It's difficult to be able to say that there's anything left to play for this season. By all accounts, the season as itself is over, while in reality, the season is only about halfway done. That isn't even getting into the news we've had today. I think the biggest takeaway I have is you're going to have to be able to make a decision on Jonathan Gannon, and you're going to have to make the right decision, because we already can see, based on the offense, we're probably not going to have Drew Petzing back. There's going to be questions about Nick Rallis, but my guess is he's going to be pretty well tied to Jonathan Gannon. Gannon stays, I would guess Rallis will as well. Defense was something that has had a lot of injuries. You're going to have to have some tough questions to ask, because, like you said, there is a chance to take this season and see it slip away from being a disaster season into a nightmare sort of season. And I don't think that you want to have that happen. There's too many vets who are playing for too much, such as Calais Campbell out there, Buda Baker, who knows how long he's going to be able to stay at the level and caliber of play he's at if you're a Cardinals fan. It's difficult for a lot of fans, because this is just something where people came in expecting and wanting this team to be a competitive team. And this was a very non-competitive game, like the Commanders game we saw last season, like the Packers game. There have been so many of these under watch. It's really difficult for me to argue that, yes, Jonathan Gannon, as of right now, you're safe, you're on the roster. I would say Marcos, he's probably off of the team right now. He's going to have to coach his way back onto the team if it's me making the call.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It has to be a situation now that, well, with the coaching candidates that are coming up and stuff, obviously Brian Dable just got fired. You also have Matt LaFleur, who's supposed to be on the hot seat and whatnot, because of the fact that the Packers aren't where the Packers need to be. That's a guy that you'd probably hire as a coach and not so much as an offensive coordinator or anything like that. So with Jonathan Gannon, everybody's losing trust in him because of his answers. He's not giving really good answers. I'll be honest with you, like, the press conferences never interested me because of all the coach speak and whatnot, but they're really, really starting to strike a nerve between, like, them and the fans and whatnot, because the answers aren't being, there's no transparency in what he's saying. He's just saying things that we expect for, like, coach speak to say, and then when we want to get an answer or reassurance, we're not getting it.
Right, exactly. Let's talk a little bit now. We talked a little bit about the future. It's hard to be able to talk about this team for much longer. Let's go ahead before we dig into a little bit of the current news and stuff with going through halftime. Let's talk to a couple of our commenters who are popping up through the show. We've got Silverwolf is excited, saying, let's go. We've got Brian Abdallah 6246 saying, have a great show. Thanks so much. Silverwolf is talking about Jacoby losing some trust in the offensive line. We've got the wonderful Jokomo, at least, is popping in to be able to say, hey, good to see you, gents, at least with everything there. We're going to talk a little bit, at least, with Classy Nasty saying, if we surrender, will they spare the women and children? It's like Titanic. When things start going down, women and children are the ones who are the first to go. We've already seen a couple of fans, at least, who've been frustrated, at least, at a lot of money they're spending on season tickets, a lot of disappointment that they've seen from this team. We've got a 58-0 Seahawks got Keim fired. Actually, did get Keim hired, if I remember correctly. This is with, I believe, formerly Dana, Red Feather Workshop. It was Rod Graves was the one who got fired. Ken Wisenhunt was the coach at the time for 58-0. That was that 2012 game in which it didn't matter who was out there. If it was Kevin Cobb, if it was the third-string quarterback, if it was John Skelton. It was just a complete travesty of a game. Let's go and now shift, Marcos, and we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming spot, because right now, as a Cardinals fan, we talked about, now we can go over a little bit more film to end our show, but this is the sort of clip where you burn a lot of the film as far as mentally. Your goal is to learn as much as you can from it. Like you said, there's a lot of things that went wrong that are correctable. Some of them are simple as far as pass protection against those blitzes, being able to keep discipline. The Cardinals did a good job of, Seahawks are not good against the run. Seahawks did not do well against the run. You just got in the hole and had a couple of, I think it was basically 4 plays is what the game came down to that led to 4 touchdowns. The 2 fumbles for touchdown, the deep pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the 67-yarder to Cooper Kupp. Those plays is essentially what determined the difference, and they were gigantic plays. There's some bigger plays that may pop up, and that's where there's a couple of Cardinals players who are not going to be available potentially for the next week or two. We've got the updated walkthrough because of the Cardinals are so beat up. They did not even hold practice. They had a walkthrough. Kelvin Beachum was resting. He also has a groin injury that's going on, so he is a not injury rest. They called it, did not practice. Baron Browning, he's concussed, probably going to miss a week. We'll talk about Marvin and that news here in a second. Will Johnson, I said, is probably going to miss another week. Bilal Nichols has had issues as far as with not either playing or having not injury related. Taylor Demerson got his ankle hurt in the game. We'll see if he's able to be active for the game or not. Jonah Williams was removed from the game with a shoulder injury, replaced with Kelvin Beachum. The pass protection, like we said, looked a bit better. Cardinals still were not able to run the ball effectively. There's no news as far as it's come to with activating their running back Trey Benson from injured reserves. So you got to imagine he's probably going to be out this week as well. Mack Wilson had a rib injury, which is unfortunate. I believe that the latest on Mack Wilson was that he was ruled out for the game, so he's for sure not going to be there with the rib injury. Evan Brown, foot limited injury. Will Hernandez, Zonovan Knight, Max Melton even had an injury that Walter Nolan had. I'm told Walter's going to be fine. It's still something where he's not going to practice as much this week. It wasn't the ankle or the calf, I should say, that he injured before, but it was a knee injury. He had to get helped off of the field. BJ Ojolari has been practicing, but he's in the 21-day window that's been opened up. Darius Robinson got hurt in the game, and Xavier Weaver is limited. So you're talking now about, we're going into Marvin Harrison Jr. and that news, which is huge, but you're talking now about 2 healthy receivers, 3 when you had Andre Bocelli. It's going to be essentially seeing Elijah Higgins as probably wide receiver 3 in the game, with Trey McBride being your top receiver. It's Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, and that's it. That's something where, Marcos, this list is so long. We don't want to say never. It'd be one of the biggest wins of Jonathan Gannon's career if he can pull it off. But this is almost one of those, like, come on, baby, like you're taking one of those punches in the Rocky movie, like just saying, throw in the towel, throw in the damn towel. That is exactly what it feels like. There's been so many blows to the Arizona Cardinals here that you gotta wonder, is this game something that the Cardinals have a shot of winning? I think there's always a chance, but it seems like a pretty small one with this injury list.
Yeah, it's like they say, you got a puncher's chance. Anybody has a chance, but it's just this list it's so long. It's just overcoming that. You have, well, Calvin Beacham's most likely going to play, but you have Baron Browning, who's out with a concussion. Don't know if he's going to come back. Marv's out, of course. So you have Michael Wilson, you have Trey McBride, you have Greg Dortch. I feel somewhat comfortable with that room. The problem is that, like, you don't have enough bodies out there that if one of those guys goes down, then you're really in trouble there. Well, Nichols, that's whatever. Well, Johnson is a big loss, and it really sucks that when we drafted this guy, we were hoping that he could stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to do that thus far. He's great when he's out there, but he just hasn't been able to go out there. So unfortunately, this looks like one of those picks that, like, people are, a general manager like, yeah, that's why we didn't draft him. That's why he slid. And
yep, he has been beat up. As we'll see as far as long-term injuries, but if him missing another week, he'll have missed probably half of the eligible games he's been able to play this season. We'll see how the back half of the season looks. It is definitely something where it's a different injury than his knee. It's the back and hip. This is, of course, the injury on that final little almost Hail Mary that was thrown by Dak Prescott, where a guy rolled up underneath Will Johnson, hurt him. He was sorely missed in this game as far as with his coverage. Let's talk now about Marvin Harrison Jr., because that is a huge loss for the Arizona Cardinals. Marvin Harrison Jr. being rolled out with emergency appendectomy surgery. So you're talking about he's for sure ruled out and going to miss the upcoming game. We were talking about comparing to notable players who missed games that had appendectomy surgery. I was tipped off at least that there was a shoe going to drop the next day. Didn't know what it was. Jokingly, like I think it was in our group text that I've got with me, Seth Cox, Jess Root, we all said, oh, it's probably Jacoby's got a lacerated spleen. Like what's the worst case scenario? It's kind of close. Marvin Harrison Jr. had emergency appendectomy surgery today. He is going to miss the 49ers game. They have a weak secondary. The cornerback room is not great. Their pass rush, since they lost Nick Bosa, is not great. Previously, when that's happened, Ben Roethlisberger missed a game. Minka Fitzpatrick missed a game. Guys who were receivers in Austin Hooper missed 2 games. Marvin Harrison Jr., my guess is he misses 1 game. The following week, the Cardinals, I believe, are taking on, is it the Jaguars the following week? Oh, no, it's the Jaguars the following week, before they get a lovely showdown against the Buccaneers and the Rams. This is a huge sort of loss, because you're talking now about not just Marvin Harrison Jr. missing time, Simi Fehoko going to IR. You're also talking about having each player that follows up. So if I'm the Niners, I go out there, double team Trey McBride, force Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch to beat you. Andre Bocelli is going to be getting some special teams snaps, and you don't even have Simi Fehoko with some size, so you're down to pretty much little guys in Dortch and Bocelli, and you're going to be, I'm guessing, playing a lot of Elijah Higgins in this game, a lot of 2 tight end sets with Higgins probably taking over the main slot role or being able to even flex him outside for a time or two. It's a bummer because this is a setback. Marv's going to have to take some time to recover. We'll see if it's a game or two. As it currently stands, he is below on track for 1,000 yards in the season. This may ice it where unless he ends up having a couple of huge games down the stretch, he may not hit 1,000 yards for the second year in a row because of the setback, Marcos. That is definitely disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, and that clip that I put up before the beginning of the season looks stupid now because I said that I almost guaranteed he was going to get 1,000 yards, and now that looks really bad. So I think that's safe to say that I'm not going to make another prediction like that. Just going to wait for the season to see how it plays out because I really didn't think the season was going to turn out this way. I don't think any of us did.
No, we did not. I think that maybe there was signs last year with how the team ended. We see that was how the 2021 Cardinals had that downward stretch for the season. Teams seem to figure them out. They come into 2022 with injuries. Season ends up going off of a cliff. It just feels like that teams who are good teams will learn how to win, will keep winning, and be able to continue. The next man up philosophy is something we've seen that the Cardinals have really struggled with. That's something that I'm very curious to see how that will look like moving forward. But let's talk a little bit about the matchups now with the San Francisco 49ers. Marcos, if you got any more clips to share, we can get to some of those at the end of the show when we head into OT. But this is a mismatch game for the Cardinals when you're talking about the way that the lineups are being set up. I am very nervous that this could be a similar outcome because you're talking about getting back your starter in Brock Purdy, who's been out for the last month or so. He's cold, so maybe you have an opportunity to take advantage. They're getting back their number one receiver in Ricky Pearsall, who absolutely destroyed you the last time that he played you. I believe it was 123 yards per game. I believe it was 117 yards per game that he got after 8 catches for 11 targets. That was a game where George Kittle, I believe, missed time and actually came back in this season. So you're talking about a healthier 49ers team. You're talking about having back the quarterback, Brock Purdy. You don't have your receivers. This is a really bad matchup for the Arizona Cardinals as it stands right now. I am going to probably pick the Niners, and I think it could be a 2-touchdown potential sort of a game where it's not the same blowout as it was before, but I could see it being a very difficult game for the Cardinals to win, Marcos.
Yeah, it's trending that direction at the very least. I don't think it's going to be, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be like that big of a loss. I have a little bit of a feeling that after the whooping that we took last week with the Seattle Seahawks, I think this team, even though we have undermanned in most positions and stuff, they're going to play hard. That's one of the things that you can kind of say about this recent Cardinals team, that before this blowout, that at the very least they kind of played up to the competition. So I'm going to be honest, but might be completely wrong on this, but I just feel like it's not going to be that bad of a loss, but I do think they're going to lose.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit here, at least with the way about it, I think, and how you play. And with all these injuries is super important. When you take a look at how the matchups are, you look at and see you got Xavier Weaver outside, Michael Wilson over in the slot. DeCommodore Lenore would be the one who matches up, and he's not played as well as I think that it was supposed to be this season. He's been banged up due to injury. You were going to have him. He's a little bit, I think, on the smaller side as well. So you're talking about their CB1 against Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe similar to the Dallas game. It's really going to be the Trey McBride show. Like, he's been playing like a top 3 to 5 tight end in the NFL. You've got Bryce Huff is going to get matched up in Paris Johnson Jr. Maybe they flip things around for the most part. Ultimately, this is a place where the Niners defense, without having their guy in the middle of the field in Fred Warner, almost said Winters, Fred Warner, without having Nick Bosa, it's a much easier, softer matchup. The Giants were able to put up some points last week, but it's that Niners offense that is the one that is healthy and back to normal. This is where I think the mismatches come in. So you're talking about Sweat against Williams. You got Baron Browning's going to be likely out. So you're talking about the Zaven Collins show. McKivitz has played pretty well. George Kittle getting matched up onto Cody Simon. Well, that's going to be a really tough matchup. You're probably going to need to bring some of those safeties down for that as well. We'll hopefully get Max Melton back, but we're really going to be interested to see what goes on when it comes to Pearsall, because Pearsall is going to probably be drawing a little bit more Denzel Burke. We saw them struggle in the first game with getting matchups on him. Juwan Jennings moving back down into the slot. That health for Pearsall, it opens up their entire offense, because Pearsall being the one, moving Jennings into the slot. Kittle's always dangerous, and then you get Kendrick Bourne on the outside, plus Brock Purdy. And like, it's not going to be blowout city. I agree with you. I think they'll strike back a little further, but it's going to be a tough matchup, at least here for the Cardinals. This is going to be one of those places where when we talk about how when it rains, it pours, it's not going to be great. That's one of the spots where you're hoping that the Cardinals can be able to figure out, get a win. I think it may be another week before that happens. And obviously, pinch me if I'm wrong, Marcos, but they get the Jacksonville Jaguars. That defense has struggled. You've got a missing Travis Hunter for the rest of the season after the LCL repair. I'm very much thinking that if the Cardinals are going to have a bounce back game, it's going to have to be against the Jaguars, because that's the last easy-ish. Jaguars are still in line for potentially getting a playoff spot. They're still competing hard for that. Last easy-ish game you're going to get for the foreseeable future. You're going to have a tough Bucs team, a very tough Rams team. You're going to have a tough defense at the very least with the Houston Texans. You're going to be looking at the Atlanta Falcons as the only game that they're going to be favored in. And Marcos, we haven't even talked about the rest of the offensive line for Arizona. The way that things have turned out, Drew Petzing went on the record, said this week he doesn't think the offensive line has played that bad this season, doesn't think there's been that much regression. We've seen regression from the line. Yeah. It's something where Brown is being hurt. We're probably going to see at least one of these two spots is probably going to see a replacement guy as far as Isaiah Adams going in. Jonah Williams, we've talked about, has been at near replacement level. Kelvin Beachum showed a little bit of a boost when he was in there. It's been a difficult prospect, and it shows that the Cardinals' needs for next year, quarterback is probably the top need, because you're seeing what the limitations are of Jacoby Brissett. You're going to have to get a young body in there behind him. You're also, after that, you're going to need to fix right tackle. There's going to be questions about your offensive guard spot. You're going to have to probably get another guy in there. I did see this being a place where the Cardinals have 3 new starters on the offensive line next year. 2 guards, potentially. I know there's sound Evan Brown for a 2-year deal. If he continues to regress the way that he's been, maybe you shift him or move him into a backup role with that spot. Maybe you're end up putting in a rookie. Maybe the rookie comes in after a little bit of time. But you got to get a brand new right tackle. Will Hernandez, it's a 1-year deal. He has not played that well. Froholt and Paris Johnson Jr. are just the 2 guys that have been stalwart. Paris Johnson's been playing at a near Pro Bowl level. I think that it's really hard, because if you're going to say, hey, yes, I'm Drew Petzing, the line has gotten worse. Why has it gotten worse? Well, it's because they're not playing well. That sounds really selfish. Yeah, if you say, well, I'm not doing well, then it sounds like you're putting on you. It's a hard thing to get, so I don't think I read too much into it, but I think what you should say is, yes, I think our line has regressed from last season. We have to play better. We've got to coach better. Part of the same thing Jonathan Gann is saying, and then we'll say, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go out there against the Niners and show you by being able to pound the rock against them and be able to pull up a good, solid running game. That's, I think, what good coaching is. And so far, we have had a hard time seeing that from the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not even shocked by the answers you give. Would you like a world where he goes out there and he says, "Yeah, my offensive linemen have been sucking this year. Or yeah, we suck at run blocking, we suck at pass protection and everything." But then turning around and saying but we're gonna get better because we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. But it's just the same. That's the reason why I don't watch these things anymore. I don't watch these press conferences, because they're the same thing. They're going to get you mad because they're going to avoid telling you exactly what they should be telling you or what you want them to tell you or giving you reassurance on anything. They're just going to read from the script and be like, yeah, our guys play hard and everything like that. I don't feel like they regress and, blah, blah, blah. And if they paid me to do that, I'd do that for them in a heartbeat. I'd go out there in front of all those reporters and do the same thing. I'd read that list and be like, all right, well, what am I supposed to? Okay. Oh, they asked me about the offensive. Okay. Well, you know what, guys? You guys, they're fine. They're good. Don't worry about it. Hey, next question.
Yeah, it's tough, because that's part of the game of being a coach, and part of the area, like we said, is just it's a difficult prospect. One of the things I think that I do want to also point out, and this is going to be one of the areas when it comes to with the likes of Monty Ossenfort. I'm going to pull this one up here real quick to see if I can find the difference between all right, so here's one of the things I wanted to point out from AZ Jace is talking about. So Darius Robinson has a really good PFF grade, 122 of 125 defensive linemen. The answer is that that's not good. No, obviously we know that's not great. It's one of the spots where I think him with his length, it was probably a spot where he tested in as being a first round pick at the Senior Bowl, but I think he should have probably been a second round pick overall just because of the way things worked out. That was where Cardinals really just, that was the guy that they wanted, and it was one of the places where so far it has not been a good pick, unfortunately. Let me go ahead here and have this so we can take a quick look over here. This is the PFF grades for the Cardinals. You'll see that there's only one player, the player the Cardinals kept over Elijah Simmons, in PJ Mustipher, who has a worse overall grade than Darius Robinson. So you got 122nd, 123rd. It's part of why when you got to see a little bit of play that popped up from the likes of, I can't even remember, Walter Nolan, when he popped up and was immediately able to be as a penetrator. Elijah Simmons, overall, he hasn't had quite enough snaps to be able to test in there, but he's been at 149th out of 202 for the defensive lineman based off of where the snap count has been. He hasn't quite tested in, but he's been much, much better. And part of that, I think, is that you've got Vita Vea next to you, so that's going to help. But this is one of those misses where the Cardinals put him on the practice squad. They liked what they saw from PJ Mustipher. Elijah Simmons was the guy that I think a lot of people liked his college film much better. This is just a miss for the Cardinals here. That's something that falls onto Monty Ossenfort. You probably should have kept him on the active roster. Felt like someone was going to poach PJ. Okay, he's a veteran who's bounced around to a couple of teams. Keep the rookie who's there. He hasn't played a lot of snaps, but he's rotated in and has made a couple of nice splash plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just more that has gone wrong with the Cardinals so far in this season, as unfortunate as it may be.
Yeah, well, that's the type of decisions we make. We always do that. It's not even something that the Cardinals do. The Suns have done that before too. They've let go of players that eventually have become like really good in whatever field that they're in, whether it's defense or offense. So it's not shocking that like somebody that we've all like watched and paid attention to, in Elijah Simmons, just gets snatched up, goes to another organization. And you know what? It might be also that the fact that because he's going to be playing under Todd Bowles and that defense and whatnot, they develop better with them. So, I mean, we never know what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Let's go in and wrap up talking a little bit. You want to talk about Akeem Davis-Gaither, I know, because in the midst of a lot of difficulties and problems for the Cardinals, there is some good news. And that is that Akeem Davis-Gaither has actually played relatively well when what we're talking about with Mack Wilson being the star. He's actually showcased himself quite a bit as far as being able to be a solid playmaker. I'll pull up a little bit of a film study here, at least for some of that. I know that you've got a couple of things you wanted to talk about, but one of the plays right here as far as for diagnosing, this is a Jalen Thompson on the tackle. You can see he's able to at least adjust his play here. There was a previous tackle, I think, on an earlier play that he made, but you can at least see that this misdirection play here, he's at least diagnosing, reading through with the defense. This was, I believe, the first play of the game. The one that I wanted to find was this play here. Let me see if I'm able to refresh the play on that one or not. But there was a good tackle that he made where he was able to quickly get there and be able to disengage. Let me get this one loaded up. There we go. So this is one where you can see Akeem Davis-Gaither positioned right here. He's kind of at the mic spot. You got Cody Simon is next to him because Mack Wilson's off of the field. They're at least doing a good job of communicating. And then you take a look at the stack and shed here. So he gets the pulling guard that pops up here. And then so the first guy, Calais Campbell, just misses the running back as he runs up the middle. He ends up kind of hitting where the hole is going to be. You see Josh Sweat's kind of coming off of it there for the most part. Sweat is not able to make the tackle on this play because he just pulls off a sweet spin move. So what happens with Akeem Davis-Gaither? You got the other guys who are tied up here. This is a huge run. If he gets blocked into it, Gaither's able to make the tackle and be able to pick it up. Stops it for a 3-yard gain. Just showcasing the ability to stack, shed, stay in your discipline, communication. Those are all good things that you want to see from your will linebacker.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can also see that, so Calais Campbell gets that penetration, throws off this running back, not expecting him in the backfield. That really does help a lot, but that stack and shed ability is what you want your linebackers to be able to do because they're paying attention to see where the running back is, and last minute, they're just not letting the offensive lineman control them.
It's good technique being able to have when he matches up with the one guy. It's long arms. You always want long-armed offensive linemen. He's able to keep his eyes, keep the coverage, so that way if he breaks it outside, he's there. If he runs it back inside, he can pull and shed. Gets a pull down at least, and this is a legal pull at least that you're able to do, where he just kind of is able to shed, pulls down, and is able to get that tackle. It's not a holding call like some people would think it'd be a holding thing where you're pulling down for that one. It's just part of how football is, at least with being able to shed and disengage. Lineman needed to finish his block there. He probably would have had a much bigger gain if he'd been able to do that.
Yeah, so that's credit to him for being able to stack and shed like that. So that's just like textbook like run defense when it comes to the linebacker position. So let me go ahead and bring up this run stuff. There's two at the goal line that he had some really good tackles on. First one, I believe he is lined up. Yep, right behind the line of scrimmage. Just kind of diagnoses,
Yep.
finds the running back, just takes him out. That's it. It's not even. There's nothing.
One-on-one, right up the middle. Perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
let's play that
Love it.
again for you guys. So that one, like I said, it's nothing special. Just like he hits the hole. Running back thinks he's gonna take him on, and he just like, nope, you're not taking me on. We're just
Yep, make sure he keeps his feet light so that way he's able to move that way in case he cuts left, cuts right, he's able to make that cut play happen. And just ends up being a great tackle that he's able to make there.
Yeah, and so I believe this is my next one. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I was getting confused because I was looking at the wrong screen. All right, so right here he's lined up at the edge. He does a really good job of being able to just not get taken out by that. I'm pretty sure that's a wide receiver there. So he's doing his job. If that's a wide receiver, that's a tight end, then that's a tight end. He is immediately attacking the inside shoulder of that tight end, so he never gets that ability to down block on him and keep him away from the play. And by doing that, you see sometimes these linebackers or these edge defenders, they get on the inside shoulder and they just kind of like allow the momentum to carry it to them because they know that if they can continuously keep moving that same direction, being carried, they'll run into a running back eventually, and that's exactly what happens here. He's just able to just like throw off the running back, even though there was a good stuff at the line of scrimmage by the rest of the players and whatnot. But that's just showing like, hey, he understands like basic like attacking the line of scrimmage and basic ability to be able to do exactly what you want your linebackers to do. And it's not true that that he is a liability in coverage. It's not true that he's bad when it comes to like run defense and being able to. He just understands things that you wouldn't think that a player that hasn't gotten the amount of snaps that he has. He's able to understand those like really really well. You don't have to like think twice about like, hey, should we replace this guy? I think it's fine for the most part and whatnot. I think I got one more here that I really liked. I believe you may have shown this one already. I think you did. This is just a stack and shed when he the lineman moves to the second level and then he just that's the same exact play.
Yep, that was beautiful play, so it's worth showing a second time.
Yeah, I just that's because I that's the one that popped out to me, and that's the reason why I even brought it up again. I believe I might have another one, but if you want to move on from there, that's fine.
Yeah, I think we're good. We're going to move into our overtime part of the show, at least. We'll go through our last couple of comments. We've got one this time, which is Classy Nasty, talking about Mike McDaniel as offensive coordinator. Would love it if that's the case. I have a feeling McDaniel may actually stick around for next season. Like, we'll see if the Dolphins get another quarterback, what they do with Tua. Feels like that the teams have rallied. They go off and beat the Bills this past week. Like, that's one of those places where that's the sort of win you want if you're Jonathan Gannon. Go out there. No one's picking you against the Bills. You go out there, beat the Bills, break that 9-game losing streak against them. Cardinals did not manage to go out and do that against the Seahawks this past week. That's something where I think that McDaniel is a good coach. I think that he's going to stick around. If he doesn't, I think it's going to be more likely you'll see someone connected with Gannon who comes in, assuming Jonathan Gannon stays. Yeah. And right now that's a question I think that it's worth talking about. It's something where I think you'd be looking at guys like a Kevin Stefanski, who seems like he's going to be on his way out with the Browns. We've talked a little about Wes Phillips. That's one of the places. I know that there's a little bit, at least as far as when it comes to questions about who could be an incoming OC. There's going to be some OCs who end up as head coach. We'll talk a little bit more about that first. Got to get through the rest of the season to be able to find out. But thanks for that, Classy Nasty. And that's going to be it for us, guys. Like, we'll do a little bit more potentially as far as when we get back after the Niners game next week. But for now, where can we find you and your content, Marcos? You got some great film breakdowns that you've been doing on your X account.
Yeah, absolutely. At Pancake Soul, it's not spelled the same way as it is on this handle, but if you guys just type in at Pancake Soul with two S's in the middle, then you'll be able to find me. Of course, you can also find this here at the Cardinal Rule, umbrella, as I keep calling it, because we have other podcasts. There's other podcasts of great content creators, and our old videos on the Redbird Reboot podcast.
Absolutely. Yep. So make sure you're following the Redbird Reboot at Redbird Reboot. I'm Blake Murphy 7. Guys, this has been it. It is finally, we are done with having to talk about this brutal game that the Cardinals just finished up. We're all finished up here on the Redbird Reboot. That means it is time for us to shut down for now. Thank you guys so much for being here. You guys take care. We'll see you next week on the other side of a Niners game. Let's hope the Cardinals can get a little bit healthier before that game as they take on a divisional rival for the second week in a row. Can Jonathan Gannon be able to get past? He went 0-6 before against the NFC West in 2023. They went 3-3, I believe it was last year. Maybe it was 2-4, but I think they for sure went. I think they beat the Niners. They split. I think it was 3-3. Maybe it was 2-4. I think at least. I beat the Niners twice, lost to the Seahawks twice, split with the Rams. So yeah, I was right. 3-3. Can he stop and avoid the slide, or will the Cardinals be on track to go 0-4 in the division thus far? That's what we'll be able to find out. We'll be back to talk all about it. Time for us to shut down.